Welcome back, everybody. This is the World Cup. I'm still Gabby Snyder, and I'm joined here by Henry Rich. Henry, you got the honor of opening up the stream. How's it feel to be back?
It's been awesome. We had such an amazing round one. That was so cool to see. Such cool teams, such amazing players. Getting to watch you and Sean last round as well was such a blast of a set. And now I get to be here with you as well. So really looking forward to this set.
Likewise. It's always fun to see just what the regional metagames are looking like and just what teams trainers are bringing to feature on the world stage. And we have a really exciting matchup coming up. So why don't you talk us through the players?
Yeah. So we've got sorry.
It's okay. Portugal versus Mexico.
Yeah, we've got Portugal versus Mexico. So we have Miguel Paquete. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly there. Up against Alejandro Terrazas. And yeah, so both teams I believe making it through the qualifying stages. Portugal finishing top of their group and a really close first over the Netherlands, who I think they tied on set wins and it came down to game wins. And then Mexico as well, really strong performance coming through into the group stages and looking to kick off the group stages as best they can with a win here today.
For sure. Best of luck to both these teams. You know, we don't have any results reported in yet. Probably means they haven't been playing yet because there was a couple of regionals, and I know there were some trainers who traveled pretty far to go compete in Gdansk this weekend, which was really exciting for me to see. I've always said I wanted to go compete there myself personally, so best of luck if you haven't played your matches yet. Fortunately for us, we do know that Miguel and Alejandro have played there, so we'll be able to talk about them and talk about their teams and show off what should be a great game of Pokemon.
Yeah, we're coming to the end of Reg H now, and it's been really cool to kind of see the adaptations that people have been making to teams. I think it's happened maybe 3 or 4 times now that a lot of people have seen one dominant team and gone, wow, the format's been solved. Just for the very next regional, some new, sometimes crazy team has come along, or even just adaptations from one of the former meta teams, and it just keeps evolving each week, and it's so cool to see. And we see that in World Cup too. We sometimes see these teams that people maybe don't want to bring to these regional level events, but they're like, look, this is a surefire win for me if I bring this 1 week. It's a cool team, people aren't going to expect it, and it's really nice to be able to see those and showcase those in World Cup.
For sure. And I have to wonder if there was a little bit of that going on in this match. If we want to go ahead and take a look at our competitors, as one of our competitors made a name for himself last year in the regional circuit with the team that he ran. So let's go ahead and talk about Miguel first. Miguel was a finalist in the VR Challenge #1 back in April. Also got top 16 in the World Cup last year on Team Portugal. Got top 32 at EUIC in 2024 and top 8 in Lyle, and is running what looks to be, I mean, it doesn't just look to be, it definitely is a sand team.
Yeah, no, it's something we haven't got to feature today. We've seen Tyranitar on stream, we've seen Garchomp on team, but we haven't seen that combination of the two of them together. Tyranitar setting up that sand stream, and Garchomp with the sand veil, hoping to not get hit with quite as many moves as it normally might. But pairing off really well with that coaching Sneasler, Tyranitar and Garchomp, neither carrying that clear amulet item, but that coaching able to boost them up through Intimidate, or just boost them up in general. So make sure that they're hitting really, really hard and taking defensive hits as best they can. And then rounding that out with that support package that you so often like to see on teams, with that follow me from the Magma and the Tailwind from the Hydreigon.
For sure. And you have a Golden Go with Nasty Plot to boot. So a lot of different options for Miguel to go on the offense here. I'm glad that you called out Sandvale on Garchomp because most of the teams that are running Tyranitar Garchomp right now do tend to stick with Rough Skin to get that little bit of extra chip damage. Also seeing Leftovers substitute on this Garchomp as well is a very unique choice here and possibly an indication that Miguel is expecting a bit of a slower game long term, hoping to take advantage of the recovery and the protection that a substitute would provide. And when you think of games that tend to take a while and you don't think of Dondozo, you kind of think of Trick Room. And what some people may not remember is that Alejandro actually got second place in Vancouver with a very powerful Trick Room team and kind of set the Trick Room meta all the way back in 2025, which was really just a few months ago, but honestly feels like a different year.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of different hard Trick Room variants popping up recently. Just so much as this weekend, I know at the Brisbane Regional Championships, we were seeing Pokemon like Lurantis popping up, Skill Swap in Hatterene that have been so cool, and just seeing these adaptations are really nice. But we actually see something that we don't normally see in Quad Psychic, on this hard Trick Room team. We've got Armarouge coming back, which we haven't seen a whole lot of in this format. Most people really opting to go with that Hatterene option. But there's the Meteor Beam with the Power Herb on Armarouge, which for a format that's full of Incineroar, that's going to be coming in really handy in a lot of sets.
For sure. You know, getting that special attack boost as well and combining it with expanding force if psychic terrain is on the field or even just an armor cannon is going to do a ton of damage. You also have Population Bomb Mousehold, which I think is a great way to clear the field of any Pokemon that might stop you from setting up Trick Room. You could also even just simply follow me or taunt or do whatever else you need for that Mousehold to help support your Indeedee or your Farigiraf. And of course, you know, Torkoal as well, doing what it does best, setting up the sun, using choice specs. So there is going to be an element of weather control in this matchup as well. So I'm really excited to see how this variant of Trick Room is going to work out. You know, I think Farigiraf has been gaining a little bit more popularity as of late. The first time I saw it was actually on Costa's team to bring him up again after we talked about him a little bit last round. But it's cool to see. You know, I think a lot of people counted it out after it was very popular in previous regulations, but it's really making a name for itself here in Reg H as well.
Yeah, Farigiraf, one of those Pokemon that's popped up on a few different teams recently. Finals of Brisbane also had it on a Rain team, powered by
Oh,
Yuyatada. But as we were saying, it's another one of those situations that we've had since the dawn of VGC, where we've got those weather wars, but this time it's sun versus sand. Tyranitar often being one of those Pokemon that hard Trick Room teams, especially with those big Psychic type moves and Fire type moves coming out, really dread seeing. But there's the Gallade here as well, which as a fighting type has the potential to absolutely obliterate things like the Tyranitar, which makes Terastallization come in so useful into these matchups. And it's going to be really interesting to see how Alejandro and Miguel kind of pair into each other with these tools that they have.
all right.
As we're
Well,
jumping into it right now.
I was going to say, let's not wait any longer. Let's go ahead and jump right into it, as it's going to be that Hydreigon and Golden Go out for Miguel against Alejandro's own Armarouge and Indeedee. And talk about a Pokemon you do not want to see as a Trick Room user. Hydreigon's really going to excel at this point because it is, you know, Dark Dragon. It is going to have access to Snarl to lower the special attack of the Pokemon on the opposing side of the field. And it's possible that it will be able to provide enough pressure to just slow things down just enough for Miguel to start, you know, slowing down the Trick Room, setting up the next part of the game. You do have to be careful about how you play your Golden Go in this position. You know, Golden Go necessarily isn't the most comfortable in front of an Armarouge, especially if you are anticipating like being targeted by a fire type attack. But given how common a switch out would be in this position, you could just risk staying in, and that's exactly what Miguel is going to do.
Yeah, so Indeedee doing what it does best in that follow me, but the High Dragon, that Snarl coming out, super effective on both of these psychic types. Not doing the most damage, but crucially getting those special attack drops. As on the opposite end of things, Goldango increasing his special attack, that nasty plot boosting that special attack by 2 stages, as the Armarouge sets up the Trick Room, making sure that his Alejandro's Pokemon have that speed advantage for as long as they can, so they can really operate with those special attack drops.
And now that Trick Room is set on the field, Alejandro has the opportunity to go on the offense. This would be a great opportunity to use that Meteor Beam to boost up your special attack and deal some great damage into the High Dragon. It would also be a great opportunity to just target down that Goldengo with a fire type attack if you're not worried about it using Protect. That being said though, I think most trainers, especially after they get up a nasty plot boost, are inclined to protect their Pokemon. So I wouldn't be surprised if Alejandro tries to deal some big damage to the High Dragon this turn. But double Protect, it always works.
Yeah, double protecting to stall out Trick Room is the age-old way of dealing with this sort of team. This Indeedee is one of the ones that is opted to carry that Dazzling Gleam, as we see come out here, which is a lot nicer to deal with those Dark types, a lot nicer to deal with those Dragon Dark types that don't like seeing those Fairy moves. But just that double protect, so failing to find their mark, unfortunately.
But now we're just in the same position that we were in the previous turn, with the benefit of there being one less turn of Trick Room on the field. And you do have to wonder just how Miguel is going to get through the remaining turns of Trick Room. You really don't want to switch out the Goldengo, given that there is the boost already to its stats. You could opt to terrastalize it at this point in time. You know, Dragon typing will allow you to resist a fire type attack and should allow you to stick around, especially knowing that the special attack of both these Pokemon has been dropped, if you're not too worried about that Indeedee and how it's trained. But instead, it looks like we're just going to see both these Pokemon stay in.
We sure do. There's that Expanding Force coming out, not affecting that High Dragon, but doing a little bit of chip damage to that Goldango. Nothing like a super effective Armor Cannon or a Meteor Beam to kind of make up for that special attack drop coming out. But a huge Make It Rain, able to take down that Indeedee and almost bring that Armarouge down, just living on a sliver of health. A really good KO to pick up here, but you've got to imagine that, as the Snarl misses the Armarouge, not quite able to get it off the field. But there's a free switch coming in here, and that's really dangerous to do against the Trick Room team.
It is dangerous, especially when a Pokemon like Gallade is known and is running Wide Guard, which would shut down Miguel's strategy pretty definitely at this point in time. That being said, though, Miguel has kind of been very courageous in how he's been approaching this matchup. You know, every turn that, you know, he could switch and play defensively with the Goldengo or the High Dragon, he hasn't. He's stayed on the field, he's stayed attacking. And you do have to wonder if Alejandro is going to keep calling these defensive plays and just hope that one works out for him, or if Miguel is going to change up that play style, finally be defensive, finally make that switch, and then hope that that's the turn that Alejandro makes the read that he did the opposite thing and he can catch him off guard.
Yeah, there's a Protect coming out from the High Dragon there, possibly seeing not quite what Miguel was hoping to lock in there, but actually, the Goldango in Trick Room moving first before the Armarouge and the Gallade. And there's the Trick Room. It looks like Alejandro might have been going for a double Trick Room there, potentially trying to call the double Protect from Miguel's side and get up a fresh set of Trick Room turns, but it didn't quite work out there.
Exactly, and we've seen those speed interactions before this, and while it may be possible that the Gallade is trained to do something weird here, I think you're exactly right. That was a double Trick Room turn that unfortunately got called out, and because of that, there really isn't nothing the Torkoal can do. It's very powerful indeed, and had it been under optimal conditions, it would have easily picked up KO after KO with Eruption, at least until the Tyranitar took the field. I mean, we saw the benefit of knowing that Pokemon was in the back, but I think that Miguel just did a really good job that game. again, just being very heavy on the offense, calling out Alejandro turn after turn, saying, I know you're going to think I'm going to play defensively. I'm going to stay on the field. I'm going to use this Golden Go to my advantage. And even if you do knock out this Pokemon, I have stuff in the back that can help me make up for any momentum lost. And going into game 2 and talking about adjustments, I think Alejandro has to recognize that that was Miguel's strategy and sort of amp up the pace a bit, find a way to break through, I think the Golden Go in particular, without necessarily relying on the Armor Rouge. Maybe trying to get the Torkoal in a little bit earlier so that the eruptions can provide a little bit more pressure, and just hope that you can also catch the Tyranitar at an inopportune moment.
I think it'd be very nice to see something like maybe the Gallade on the lead, able
Yeah.
to deal with something like that Hydreigon, or even pressure it to Terrastalize, because once you get it to Terrastalize, once you've got Trick Room up, it's not going to be that big resist for things like those eruptions from Torkoal, the big expanding forces, because at the moment we've got 4 Psychic types don't really want to be sitting in front of a Snarling Hydreigon, a Rock Sliding Tyranitar, and that Gallade is really kind of the best answer that I can see, aside from maybe the Mouse Hold, to start dealing with these big dark types.
Yeah, a helping hand from the Mousehold could also be what Alejandro needs, but I agree. I think the Gallade needs to show up first, but then you also have to wonder about just how it's going to be played with the Golden Go and all those other things. But we don't have to wonder for too long, as Game 2 is ready for this set, so why don't we go ahead and see what these trainers are thinking.
Absolutely. The Gallade also does have access to something like that Wide Guard to try to mitigate a bit of that Goldango's damage, but we're actually going to see the same leads from both trainers here. That Armor Rouge Indeedee coming out again for Alejandro in front of that really threatening Hydreigon and Goldango.
And it does make me wonder, like, what's the adaptation here for Alejandro? Because we saw what happened in Game 1. The Snarl was very easily connected with these 2 Pokemon, and we see it again happen. There was no Follow Me this time around, so it's possible that one of these, maybe the Indeedee, has gone on the offense this turn, but it's going to come at the cost of that Armor Rouge.
Yeah, a really good call from Miguel there. We saw that Indeedee go with that Follow Me Game 1, which if it did here, it would have rendered that Shadow Ball ineffective. But Miguel making such a good call, recognizing that this Armor Rouge needs to go on the offensive early if it's going to make much of an impact in this game, and just sniping it down with that massive Shadow Ball and Snarl. No defensive terrestrializations, but Trick Room has gone up from the Indeedee, and Torkoal has hit the field, ready to do some damage.
It's going to be ready to do some damage, but there is a Tyranitar lying in the wings, so we'll just have to see if it's going to be able to hold on to that damage. There is the possibility that this Torkoal, predicts the Tyranitar coming in and goes for a 2-turn Solar Beam, but the Gallade also hits the field at the same time, so Alejandro is at least maintaining the alignment that his Pokemon need to at least keep the damage threatening up there.
Yeah, so we get our first terrestrialization of this game. That Torkoal firing on all cylinders, going for that big Terra Fire. It's already got the choice specs. It hasn't got the sun anymore thanks to the Tyranitar, so it wants to be doing as much damage as possible and for as long as possible. Alejandro going for that Heat Wave instead of that Eruption, probably recognizing that the Torkoal isn't likely to be taking KOs with the Eruption this turn, which means it might be taking a bit of damage in return. It wants to get off those Heat Waves, those fire moves later in the game as the turns go on, especially with Sandship. It's going to take more damage, and Heat Waves eventually going to be just doing more than a low HP Eruption will.
It will, but that's also assuming that this Torkoal is able to stay on the field long enough to make that difference. Unfortunately, with the Tyranitar terrestrializing here, it will start resisting any fighting type attacks that this Gallade fires at it. Will be potentially taking a little bit more damage from this Heat Wave, and there's always the possibility of a burn as well to open up the field for Alejandro a bit more.
Yeah, that Heat Wave coming out, just doing a little bit of really chip damage here. It's nowhere near as much as you normally want from a choice specs Torkoal. That Sacred Sword nowhere near enough to take down this now Terraflying Tyranitar, but a Terra Blast from this Tyranitar, now super effective into that Gallade, is more than enough to take it down. And huge Draco Meteor coming down from that Hydreigon is enough to just finish off this Torkoal and remove Terrestrialization and really the hardest hitter from Alejandro's side of the field.
And also leaving Alejandro with his final Pokemon as well, I think, with that Indeedee.
Yeah, indeed, not really the most offensive of Pokemon. It's got that Dazzling Gleam, which is very nice into the Hydreigon, but Tyranitar, it has the Assault Vest. It's no longer weak to Dark moves, and Alejandro, recognizing that, concedes the game, bringing Miguel to a really dominant victory against one of these usually so powerful hard Trick Room teams. He really knew what his team had to do into it and had the tools to take the set.
Exactly. And I do think that is one of the unique things from a World Cup type tournament where you do know who your opponent is and you do have the opportunity to sort of prep for that person. Looking at Miguel's team, the Tyranitar, Garchomp, Golden Ghost, Sneasler, I think is a very common core. The Magmar as well can synergize very well with those Pokemon. But I do think the Hydreigon in particular is an indication that he was prepared for this matchup. And especially seeing that lead twice in a row and just seeing how it really shut down Trick Room overall was a very good call from him going into the tournament and going into the matchup. And I think goes to show just how strong Portugal is in this tournament overall. You can see why they got top 16 last year.
They've always been such a good region. They've always had such a strong performance and some amazing players as well. Like, we can't deny that they've got former world champions on their team as well, and even just being on teams with players like that, the experience, the knowledge that they can bring, it's always so cool to see, because you're not always going to have world champions on your team. You're not always going to have players with such incredible accolades, but it's always so cool to see the experience and kind of the knowledge behind those experienced players being passed down amongst their team to players that are a bit newer, maybe a bit less experienced, and it's really cool kind of seeing that feed into the next generation of players. But it was such a tough matchup for Alejandro to overcome here. He's so good with that Trick Room, but Trick Room has its drawbacks where if a team is very good into a hard Trick Room team, quite often it's very good into almost all of them. And unfortunately, in these tournaments where you are prepping for one person, sometimes you get caught up in a matchup that is such a hard hill to climb.
Exactly. But I gotta say, I find it very interesting. And this maybe is like a modern VGC thing as opposed to an ancient VGC thing, which I'm old, so I can say that. We've started seeing these players sort of become Trick Room players and like using Trick Room format after format and really gaining a lot of expertise in it. And I think Alejandro is one of those players that comes to mind. So I'm very glad to see that he's sticking with it. And I really am excited to see how he continues to innovate on it. Because I really do think Mousehold is a really fun utility to have on that team. It's just was not the utility you needed in this matchup, unfortunately. So yeah.
Popping up. We've even just in Regulation H alone, there've been hard Trick Room teams that have involved Ursaluna. There've been hard Trick Room teams that involve Sinistcha. There have been hard Trick Room teams that have started bringing that fast mode of like Mousehold, Hisui, and Lilligant. It's been so cool to see it adapt. But for now, I think we're going to go into a short break as we get ready for our next match.